First, I want to give a huge thank you to Binance. I think there's only a handful of OG projects that are really building through bear market, through bull market, and they're really a net positive for the market. And I think Binance, we can really say that they're a real net positive for the market. So thank you, Binance, for hosting this event. And I also want to thank all of you, because if you think about it, there was a 12-hour window between the missiles and the storm where all of you could have arrived, and all of you made it. So that really means that blockchain and crypto is something worth fighting for, right? And that is exactly why we actually founded IOTA. So we started IOTA in 2015. So we're one of the oldest layer 1 blockchains in the market. And the core vision of IOTA was always, we want to make blockchain real. We want it to be adopted in the real world. We want to grow out of these crazy Ponzi games, right? Out of the pump and dumps, out of these cyclical games towards the real world, because that is what matters in the end, right? Blockchain and crypto will only have a future if we create real value. And that is what we have been focused on at IOTA since 2015. I think what makes us so special at IOTA is that we've been doing things very differently from everybody else in the market, right? We started it as a German nonprofit foundation. We were regulated as a German nonprofit foundation. And we did that because we wanted to work with governments, we wanted to work with big companies, and we wanted to really position ourselves as one of the most legitimate and one of the most serious projects in this market, right? So we've never really spent anything on marketing. We've never really spent anything on market growth, but we've really been just focused on getting IOTA adopted in the real world. So over the years, we've been building up some really amazing projects. One of them is EPSI, which is the European Blockchain Services Infrastructure. So IOTA is one of the finalists to actually build out a European blockchain infrastructure. So this is really at the core of a core building block for the European blockchain infrastructure to digitize trade, to digitize products and digital identities. And our focus is also to make sure that IOTA is the core technology to enable that. Another thing that we really focus on is to digitize trade, right? So really physical supply chains where goods are being transported along the supply chain. So IOTA is the protocol to digitize the documents, the certificates, the invoices, and then to really make sure that all of that information is being shared. And so we've been working on that project in Kenya since 2018. So it actually runs in production in Kenya today. So if goods are being exported within Kenya, there's a high chance that it actually uses IOTA at the core of it. So this is one of the few projects that we've been working on that very few people know about, right? And right now we're working on expanding this infrastructure because we've recently partnered with the World Economic Forum, with the Tony Blair Institute, with Trademark Africa, and a handful of other organizations to really make sure that IOTA and this digital infrastructure to digitize trade is going to be adopted as a global standard, right? So we really see IOTA as this sort of digital infrastructure that is at the core of digitizing our world. And this is what we mean with real-world adoption, because what we're doing with these projects is actually the start of tokenization, right? We digitize the data first, and then we actually are able to tokenize the assets. So what's very exciting about this project that we've been doing in Kenya, and where we're now expanding it actually to the UK and the EU, is that we can tokenize invoices. So we can do invoice factoring, we can do trade finance. And so this is actually how IOTA is really helping to bring new assets and legitimate use cases to Web3. Something else that we've been doing actually here in the UAE, and it's actually one of the main reasons why I moved to Abu Dhabi, is we've set up the first DLT foundation. So the first licensed and regulated DLT foundation in Abu Dhabi was set up by IOTA. And what we're doing here is obviously we're working closely with the government, with the local ecosystem to really move forward with the adoption of blockchain in the real world. And the core focus of that is RWA tokenization, right? So we really want to position IOTA as the ledger of choice where digital financial assets and also physical assets are being tokenized. And so right now we're setting up some very exciting fund structures that are going to bring real-world assets to IOTA. So we're starting out with sort of traditional assets like treasury bills, but we also want to go more sophisticated with bonds, with other securities, and obviously with trade finance as well. So our objective is really to build up a new Web3 ecosystem on top of IOTA, but to really show a unique flavor to it by bringing all of this real-world adoption to IOTA, right? So IOTA is really a rail to bring institutional investors, to bring governments, to bring enterprises to blockchain and make them Web3 compatible. So IOTA always is a layer 1 blockchain. Our core thesis has always been this sort of parallelized execution of transactions, right? So we started the whole DAG movement in 2015. And so with that, we are able to execute transactions simultaneously. Now what we are actually doing is we're integrating the EVM as the layer 2 on top of IOTA. That is going to launch hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Over the last year, we've been building up the ecosystem. So once the EVM on IOTA is going to launch, we'll have all the DeFi applications, DEXs, lending markets, native stablecoins, NFT marketplaces all ready, right? So we're really launching a new Web3 ecosystem on top of IOTA, because so far IOTA has been an enterprise blockchain, right? We've been really focused on real world adoption. That's why we have never really participated at these events. I think this is actually the first time we sponsored an event, right? And so we're very honored to obviously do it with Binance. And so we are now bringing this real world adoption to Web3 by integrating the EVM on top of IOTA. So I think it will be a very exciting new ecosystem for all of you to participate in. So I can really encourage you to stay up to date with what's happening with IOTA and what's happening with our ecosystem, because it will be a new DeFi ecosystem. It will have new token opportunities. And we will also have crazy stuff like meme coins. But at the same time, we're really focused on real world adoption, right? And bringing those yield bearing assets on chain so that all of you have new investment opportunities, right? So we really achieve this vision of permissionless innovation to make sure that we get adoption in the real world, because that's all that matters in the end. So maybe a last point is like we have a grants program. Our team is here. So if you want to apply to the grants program, if you want to build on top of IOTA, you're more than welcome, because we're really happy to support you. We now no longer just have the European IOTA Foundation, but we also have the DLT Foundation here. So we're much more flexible in providing the support to the ecosystem. And so we really encourage all of you to either build on IOTA or participate in this new ecosystem. Thank you.